other accessories you can buy are the Captur Module Pro and an infrared sender. The interface is very similar to the Captur timer, and the Module Pro has all of the same functionality, but in addition can respond to 5 different types of trigger based on changes in sound, light, a break in a laser beam, a break in an infrared beam, and there's even an auxiliary input, allowing you to add an unlimited array of additional sensors or to create your own circuits. The Hähnel Captur really comes into its element when you want to photograph a high-speed event or to automate the camera, when otherwise it might mean waiting for hours. You can scroll through the trigger options using the left and right buttons, then press Set to select one. We're going to set this up as if we were trying to photograph a balloon filled with water at the point that it bursts, so we're going to set the mode to sound, as the unit will then fire when it hears the balloon popping. Each of the trigger options on the Module Pro have either 3 or 4 settings. Working right to left, we're going to set these for our balloon example. The rightmost option is the repeat count, which tells the device how many times it can trigger based upon the conditions we're going to set. If you want to set it to trigger indefinitely, set it to 3 dashes, or setting it to T will jump to whatever timings you have set up under the timer options of the Module Pro, which we covered earlier on the timer module. But in this example, we're going to be setting a manual exposure of 5 seconds, and we don't want the flash to trigger more than once, as this will appear on our photograph. Because there will be a lot of additional noise after the balloon has burst, like the water dropping onto the floor, we're going to limit the system to trigger only once as a safety precaution. The second option from the right is burst mode, and you can set this to take a fixed number of photos in succession. We don't want to use this function right now, so we're going to set this to 0. The next item along is a delay function, which is factored in after the unit is triggered. As you'll see from the other videos when we're using the system in a live environment, this function is really useful and can be set in second and hundredth of a second increments. The last option allows us to set the sensitivity for the trigger input, so higher numbers will allow the unit to be triggered with less sound and lower numbers with more sound. The settings for light work in much the same way, but the sensitivity control affects how much light is required to trigger the device, so higher numbers require less light and lower numbers require more. The laser sensitivity option again works much in the same way, but this will require a separate laser device aligned with the laser sensor on the main unit. Once in place, the Captur will trigger once the laser beam is broken. The Aux Input allows you to connect the Captur to third-party equipment, or even to your own setup, and can be set to activate on a closing switch by setting it to on, an opening switch by setting it to off, or a voltage drop by changing the sensitivity. It takes a 3.5mm jack, and there's more info on how to set this up in the auxiliary video. The final option is for an infrared device, and this comes as a separate option. To use this, the device must be aligned with the infrared sensor on the front of the Module Pro, but the sensitivity of the device is controlled by the switch on the top of the IR unit, and not the module itself. At low setting, the unit will work down to very short centimetre distances. For longer range beam breaks of 10 meters or more, use the high power setting.
Watch the rest of the films in the series from the links below, or visit the Hähnel website for more information on the Captur.